Okay, just a quick video here for ultrasonic cleaning of electronics. And this video is because a lot of you in my last video that I released with the Kenwood, where I mentioned that I cleaned the switch and some things in the ultrasonic cleaner, you asked what I used. So I'm just going to go through this. I am by no means a ultrasonic cleaning expert. That's my disclaimer up front. So I'm sure there's other things that are better, but this is what I have. This is what I use. So first of all, the type of ultrasonic cleaner. I have two of them. This is the simplest one, and it's just a cheap that I bought on Amazon, a jewelry cleaner. And it only holds, a small amount of fluid. You can see it's kind of a small container, but for working on switches and things like that, little contacts or whatever, little parts, it's great because you don't have to use a lot of fluid in it. And it's very quick because of how small it is. This is normally what you would use for jewelry. So it works really well. The only difference between this and the big one, which I'm going to show you here in a little bit, is the size. The larger ones just have a larger tank. They have a built-in heater so they can actually heat the cleaning fluid, which helps in breaking up the grease and everything. And it also will allow you to put a bigger, like a whole circuit board in there. So that's really the main difference. But let's get into what we use. So the first things first, let's not look at cleaners yet. Let's look at what base material I use for cleaning. And what you're using is water. Now, the best water you can use for ultrasonic cleaners is deionized water. Now, this is not something you're normally going to find in the store. You usually will have to order this from some sort of a scientific chemicals company or, industrial cleaning, places like that. You typically aren't going to find this in a grocery store. But this is the best type of water to use. It's the most pure water. There's nothing in it, so it can't leave any kind of residue. It dries pretty clearly and so forth. And it doesn't react with anything. That's the biggest thing. If you can't find this, the next best thing to use is just plain old distilled water. You can see this is very cheap. You can buy it very inexpensively in the grocery store or in department stores and things. And you can pretty much get this anywhere. It's not quite as good as the deionized water, but for all intents and purposes, it works fine. So that's the first thing. And really, you can do a lot of cleaning just with water. You don't even need to add anything to it. Now, the next step up from just using water would be to put a drop or two of like Dawn or Palmolive or whatever dishwashing detergent, just the kind of liquid dish soap that you would use for washing dishes. You only need a couple of drops is all it takes, because it's really just kind of adding a surfactant to there. It'll help loosen up the dirt and separate the oils and things from whatever you're cleaning. And that works pretty well too. Now, other things you can use for like rust removal. Let me see if I have some. Actually use evaporust in a ultrasonic cleaner. This is good for metal parts that are corroded, and it will take the rust and so forth off of metals. And if you have a ultrasonic cleaner that actually can heat it up, that has a heater in it, that when you heat this up, it works even more quickly than if you just leave it in at room temperature. So that's good for, like I said, metal parts and things like that. So battery terminals, anything like that. Well, it's not always good with copper, but steel, anything that's metal, that type, it works really well with any ferric type metal. Now, an industrial degreaser, and this is what you would use like on automotive parts that are heavily greased and so forth, is you can buy this stuff. Again, you can get it online, eBay, Amazon, all those places. You can also, I think you can find this even in auto parts stores and things. And this works really well also, and you just dilute it like a 10-to-1 ratio. Yeah, see, it uses a 1-to-10 ratio right there. And it works really well. The only thing you got to watch this stuff, All of these are skin irritants. Those other ones are not. In their concentrated form, you really want to wear gloves and have ventilation when you're metering this stuff out. It can burn your hands. It's not as bad as like sulfuric acid or hydrochloric acid, but it will irritate your skin, and you don't want to get it in your eyes or in your nasal passages. Bad stuff. This is probably a little bit more so than this one. This one's nasty as well, but you can see they are biodegradable, phosphate-free, and so forth, but they're still skin irritants. Now, Liquinox is made by a company called Alkanox, and this is a really good cleaner for overall electronics parts and things like that. Again, switches, relays, things like that you're trying to clean contacts or clean grease and grime off of things. It will work with circuit boards, but not the best because it may leave some residue, even though it says residue free. It works, but it's not made specifically for this. What I use for circuit boards specifically is Alkanox Detergent 8, and this is hard to get. It is not really available in a lot of places. You can get it on Amazon. It's very expensive for 1 gallon, but you're only going to put maybe about a tablespoon in a large ultrasonic cleaner. You don't need much of this. It's just a tiny amount for your whole cleaner. And this stuff does wonders. It cleans all of the crusty old flux off the boards. It's again, it's residue free and so forth. It's low foaming, but the biggest thing is it doesn't seem to interfere with components on circuit boards. And you can even look under the applications. They actually recommend it for circuit boards and nuclear reactor cavities. That's good. Delicate industrial parts, phosphate and metal sensitive labware. So this is stuff that, rosin flux residue, solder paste cleaning, post solder cleaning, electronic component cleaning. This is designed for this use. So you buy a gallon of it, it will be years. You won't have to buy it again. Now, that gets that out of the way. That's what you use. Very simple. You pour some of the water in. You take your little tablespoon or teaspoon of whichever one you're going to use. You put it in there, and you're ready to go. It's as simple as that. Now, a couple of things about ultrasonic cleaners. All right. So I'm going to do a little experiment. I have never done it with this cleaner, so it'll be interesting to see if it works. On my big ultrasonic cleaner, it works, but I bet you it'll work on this one too, as long as the frequency is correct. The way an ultrasonic cleaner works is by what's called the cavitation effect. And what it's doing is it's actually agitating or vibrating the water or the fluid inside at a high frequency. Usually 40 kilohertz, 60 kilohertz, something like that, in the tens of kilohertz range. And you can hear the harmonics of it, so you will hear a hissing and buzzing noise when it's running, and it's quite irritating to some people, especially those of you who don't like fingernails on a chalkboard, those of you who remember chalkboards fondly from school days. Anyway, so it can be annoying, but that's what's causing that sound. And the little bubbles and so forth that are formed and they pop, that's what breaks the dirt loose from whatever you're cleaning in there. So you have the mechanical agitation of the vibrating water plus the little cavitation effect of those little microscopic bubbles. And what that does is that breaks up all the dirt particles and separates them, and the water washes them away and it cleans whatever it is you're putting in there. Now, if I turn this on right now, here's a piece of aluminum foil. It's just, off of a aluminum foil you use for cooking, and you see how shiny and clean it is. And if I turn this on and I place this in here for a while, let's just set this in here, and I'm just going to let this run for a couple minutes, and so you don't have to listen to this. I will turn the camera off, and then in a couple of minutes when this runs down, which is, it's going for, you know, a couple minutes, 3 minutes, I'll come back and let's take a look at what it does to that aluminum foil. Okay, it just shut off. Let's take it out and take a look at it. Look what it did. See how it chewed all the edges off? It put a hole there, it put a hole there, and there's all these little tiny microscopic pinholes that'll pop up in these. You see the little pock marks all along here? I don't know if you can see that in the camera or not. See the edges where it ate away at it? This is what it'll do to really fine metal materials that don't deal well with flexing back and forth. Now this one, being a jewelry unit, it is not as aggressive as the commercial grade one that I use for the big circuit boards. And I put a piece of foil in it only for a few seconds, and you can see just in a few seconds it made this dull. It's not as shiny as it was, and you can see there's a hole there, one there, all these little divots, there's a hole there, a hole there. This was just in seconds. Nibbled away at the corners. This was just in seconds it did all that. If I'd have left this in there for 10 minutes, it would have been just shredded. And the reason I'm showing you that is the reason that a lot of people make the comment on videos and so forth that you can just take a circuit board randomly out of a receiver or something and throw it in the ultrasonic cleaner and it won't hurt anything. But what you have to understand is some of the electronic components that are on those boards have materials very similar to this. So for instance, any foil type capacitor, especially the polystyrene capacitors, if you ever see those little clear plastic capacitors that have silver foil inside of them, and they're clear plastic, you can see through them, they're small, and they're usually in the picofarad range. They're used in tuners and things. Those will do this if you put one of them in an ultrasonic cleaner. Now, a tuning gang, like for your tuner, for your radio, like for the AM radio, like this, those are heavier, thicker aluminum, and they are less susceptible to that. So usually you can put those in a cleaner and it won't hurt them. But anything that's really thin, delicate metal like this, not just aluminum, but delicate thin metal, it can damage it. There are certain other materials, so you really have to be careful. Anything with coils, like the little IF coils on a tuner board, the enamel and the thickness of the wires on those little coils, those wires are thinner than hair. They are some extremely thin, tiny wire with a very, very thin coat of enamel on them. This will break that up. It will damage those coils. Not always, but a lot of the times it does. So you have to be really careful with that. The other thing is, if you're using an ultrasonic cleaner that has heat, you don't want the temperature to be too hot. My rule of thumb is if it's too warm to hold your finger in for more than 10 seconds, but it's not burning your finger, you can hold it for a couple seconds before it becomes uncomfortable, that's the correct temperature. You don't want it to get so hot that it will melt things like wax and so forth. A lot of boards will have paraffin wax to hold coils and things in place, or to hold components on the board. Those kinds of things, you don't want a lot of heat on them. And so those are just a couple of things. You also have to watch the screen printing and so forth on boards. Some boards, it won't hurt it. The way the ink, the way they screen print, the printing on the board won't hurt it at all. Most of them, 90% of them out there, won't hurt them. Every now and then you'll run into one where the way that they inked it on there, you put that in there and you'll just see it'll just start chipping away. It'll be gone. So I guess the point that I'm making is be careful when you use an ultrasonic cleaner, because there are certain rules you have to follow or you could damage the board. That being said, an amplifier board that just has basic electrolytic caps and resistors and things, throw it in there. It'll clean it perfectly. You can rinse it off. You always rinse it off. You want to get this, even though this stuff is residue free, I always rinse it with just tap water. And then I put it in front of like a little electric space heater, little short one. Let it blow hot air on it or warm air on it. Not hot to burn it, but just warm. If you have a little toaster oven, you can set it on, very, very low warm temperature, not hot, and put it in there. It'll help to evaporate the water and get it all dry. You want to make sure your boards are extremely dry before you connect them up. You want it to be all dry. And that's pretty much all there is to it. So let me show you the one that I have with the detergent 8 in it. This is my industrial ultrasonic cleaner that I clean boards in. Okay, so I'm on the microphone built into the camera because I don't have the other one plugged in. So hopefully this is working. But this is my ultrasonic cleaner. It's nothing special. It's all mechanical. I don't like the electronic ones. This is more things to break. And here's the cleaning fluid, and you can see that amber color is actually flux from previous boards that I've cleaned in here. So you can see how that is. And I'm holding this camera at a weird angle, so I'm probably shaking. But you can see that it's actually totally clear when you first put the stuff in, but you can use the fluid over and over and over again until it's totally saturated, with the flux and whatever grime. It'll get so grungy that it'll actually be like a brown color. And then you have to drain it out and, put fresh water and fresh chemical in there. But this is just that detergent 8 with the deionized water. And then I will turn the heat up. Sorry about the noise. I'll turn the heat up somewhere around 100 degrees Fahrenheit, 105 degrees Fahrenheit. And I'll usually start with about 15 minutes per clean, and sometimes I have to run it through twice if it's really bad, but usually one cleaning does it. And then I just rinse it off in the sink, and we're good to go. Now, one other quick tip is if you don't want to dirty up your fluid, or you don't want to use a lot of cleaning chemical, you can fill the tank up with just plain water, and then you can put the actual cleaning solution in a glass jar like this. These are great, these wide mouth canning jars. Put your item in there that you're going to clean, and then just sit this down inside your ultrasonic cleaner, and actually the ultrasonic waves will propagate through the glass and go into your cleaning solution. And it'll work just like a normal ultrasonic cleaner, like the glass is not even there. And the nice thing is when you're done, you just take the glass out. The tank in your ultrasonic cleaner is still clean, and then you're only using up this much chemical, and then you can take your item out, whatever it is. So if you're doing switches or knobs, I'll do that with knobs. Like I'll take, for instance, something like Simple Green mixed with water, or Formula 409, and cut it with some water, some kind of really good degreaser, and I'll drop the knobs, radio knobs in there and fill it up with that. Put that inside the solution, let it clean, and then when I'm done, I'll just pour it out in the sink because it's just, it's basic household cleaner. I'm not using any kind of caustic chemical, so dump it down a drain, then pour your knobs out onto a towel or a paper towel and let them dry. And they look like brand new when they're done. So another tip. So there you have it. That's ultrasonic cleaning in a nutshell. That's it. And once again, it's really a simple process. And the most important thing is just making sure you don't put anything in there that can be damaged. And again, the two big ones is the foil type capacitors and anything with small thin wire coils and things on it. Now I've cleaned things like switch mode power supplies. The little transformers in there usually have thicker wire and stuff, so you don't have to worry about that. But it's usually RF coils and things. You got to watch that stuff. It's very delicate. So that's it. Hope that helps out, and until next time, I wish you all peace, joy, happiness, and good health in your lives. We'll see you again real soon. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.